Welcome, everyone. This week we're talking about AI art,
Ooh,
a highly volatile topic at the moment, at least for those that are heavily involved in art creation, either for articles, comics, independent work, you name it. It is something that has really come out of the minds of people that are always thinking about progress and how we can innovate and better our lives, but at what stake? And both my friend Kevin here and I, Alan, your host for this episode, we'll try to give our opinions and how we feel about the topic itself. We neither of us are an expert on both AI or art itself, though we might have our different backgrounds and experiences with it. And I want to start the podcast by asking you a question, Kevin. Kevin, what's your
yeah.
experience with art at this point?
I really don't have a whole lot of experience with art. I'm not, I was going to say I'm not an artistic person, but I did like to draw when I was younger. I wasn't very good, but I still like to try to, draw different things as best I possibly could. And then I did take a art class in college, but was more about the history of art, like the Renaissance periods and all the different types of art that was back in the older times and whatnot. So I to be perfectly honest with you, it was an elective that I had to take. It was one of those where you have to take a certain amount of electives in school in order to
Get the credits or
yeah, to
yeah.
complete, for your curriculum. So I figured, you know me, I'm gonna try to pick the easiest one, right? So I'm like, oh, art to be a breeze. So no, but aside from that, I never consider myself an artist. I never consider myself a good drawer either. But I always was very interested in the workings of other artists, especially when it comes down to like comics and like you mentioned, and Japanese animation, of course, and video games as well. That probably plays a big part as well.
Interesting. I myself as well had some classes when I was in high school, and when I was younger, before elementary school, I believe so, my parents enrolled me on a drawing class, like tutoring. They gave you like all the how to draw the eyes, the hands, the feet, the
Yeah.
anatomy of the body, drawing different poses, and it was oriented in comic books because, as I said earlier, my uncle used to buy comic books for me, and obviously I fell in love with comic books, and I started drawing. And they saw my parents saw that I was very eager to learn and draw, and hey, let's enroll him on some classes, and maybe he can get better at it. And to be quite honest, I got rather decent to some extent. I have even some of my works saved on a binder back home in Puerto Rico, and
Mm, very cool.
it's one of those things that unfortunately I left to the side. Like when I entered college, I wasn't drawing as consistently, or unless it was something required for a class or something like that.
Right.
So I tried to go and draw again, and if I got a comment from a friend of mine that he told me he saw a draw of mine because of a character that I was doing for Dungeons and Dragons, a session that we were doing. It's like, man, it feels like your style was frozen in time. Like you didn't get worse, but you didn't improve, because obviously I haven't been drawn for years at that point.
Sure.
And I was like, huh. And why I bring all of this to the conversation is just of now computers and programs are using algorithms and mathematical equations to do data scraping of the artworks of other people that have vested time on practicing or honing their craft. And now it's on a whole deal of contested waters as far as legality of it, and how that has view on the public court, if you want to call it that, and how we move on from here. And before we kind of go further, maybe there's a few things that I want to set on the table. And from there, maybe we can delve a bit deeper on the topic itself.
Okay.
And when you talk about art, I guess you could say that there's some degree of experience, knowledge, observation. Obviously, like I mentioned, like I took some classes and they were teaching me about the anatomy and how some muscles contract or retract, or how the purview of when you're looking at a horizon, and how there's a composition, and how you got like negative space or the rule of thirds, and a bunch of stuff that I learned them. I didn't use them. I mean, at least not consciously. I know was constantly like looking at it. But even if you don't know about those terms, it kind of anyone can appreciate art on their own. And when they see something that is off on a picture, most likely they can recognize that there's something that is not being followed as far as the composition of the piece that you're appreciating. If these kind of things that they've been trying with technology, try to imitate or have software learn. And for those that don't know much about how AI is, it's basically you need to feed the program a bunch of data, and data being pictures, drawings from other artists, to a large data set that then the AI connects to different type of keywords. So say that you get the picture of an apple or a tree or a dog, the software is gonna try its best to tie those keywords to what is being presented to it by the large amount of data collected. And then it adds what they call noise into the images until the image is no more. And then through the same algorithm and mathematical equation that is in the software, kind to reverse the process from that noise, like from nothing, to try and recreate the picture that it was originally fed. And to be quite honest, it's kind of mind-blowing. I mean, when you appreciate the technical aspect of it, when you think about it.
Sure.
And what people are debating is that how that is not transformative kind of work, but more so derivative, and that's where the whole legality of the situation is right now, as it stands. And all the other things among the fair use here, for example, on the States, it's so hard for someone to tell that someone is created from software or from the hand of someone, unless you're very studied up on the topic, or maybe a few years ago, it was very funny looking, but since the past few months, I would say the last 6 months or so as of this recording, we've seen improvements on the software that is astounding. And I want your reaction live here, Kevin. I'm going to send you a set of pictures, and I want you to tell me if you think it was created by a computer or if it actually someone drew them.
Oh, this is going to be interesting because I'm not too good when it comes to these kind of things. So
yeah,
cool.
I'll send you the first one, and I'll you tell me what you think of that.
All right, let me click on it so that it's actually of a bigger size. So we got a picture here. It looks like it's like a mountain in the background with some water. You know what? This picture is pretty impressive because it almost looks. This painting, I should say, it almost looks like a picture. It looks like a photo, pretty close to a photo. And I don't know what to really look for to see if there was any kind of designation between
right,
whether it would be a humanly drawn or AI drawn. It makes me want to say it's AI only because it looks more like a photograph, but I've also seen artists actually paint pictures that look damn near like a photograph as well. So, man, if I'm just going to take a guess, I'll say AI.
Okay, I'm going to look in your answers, and then I'll tell you the at the end, because I don't want you to train your eye when I send you the other two, and then I'll tell you all the picture of what they are. Okay, so
I'm just gonna say AI for everyone,
and I'll send you another one.
All right. Oh, this one's cool. It's like a picture of of a child.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this one looks very photorealistic as well, especially with the hands. But then there's other aspects that don't, like the hair from the child. But you know, because I have absolutely no idea, I'll say this one was probably drawn by a human.
Okay, and I'll send you the last one.
Okay. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's a nice painting. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in the painting, but that one that one's pretty cool. I'm gonna say human on this one as well.
Okay, the first is AI, and the last two are AI.
All three were AI.
No. What you said, the first one was AI, and the last two were hand drawn.
Yeah, so I got them actually reversed.
No. I'm asking to, so I tell you what it is now.
Oh! I thought you were giving me the answer.
No.
So yeah, and the last one, to try to describe it, it looks like it's a I don't know what kind of time period this would be, but it's got a huge window that's got the sunlight coming through, and then it looks like some women that are wearing these long gowns. I don't know if this is from like a like a Renaissance time period or what,
Mm-hmm.
but hard to describe. Anyways, so yeah, I said AI and then human.
Okay, so you were right on the first one. That's AI generated,
Which is pretty damn impressive when you think about it.
and the last two are AI generated as well.
So all three were AI generated.
Yeah, I know when you said, oh, all three are gonna be AI generated. Yeah, all three were AI generated, and
I could have very easily said that, but I didn't want to just do that but I don't know either what to actually look for. And it's pretty damn impressive that an AI is able to replicate. I mean, the last one looks like a legitimately drawn painting, and the other two, like I said, have some photorealistic aspects to them. But it's definitely I've seen artists draw semi photorealistic or damn near photorealistic paintings before. So
and the story with the last one that I sent you on purpose, actually this piece of art, I guess, was submitted to a contest in Colorado. And it was submitted under the digital art category, and it was close. Yeah, it was August of last year, 2022, and actually it won for the digital art prize. And then the person told them that he did the piece of art through Midjourney, and it was AI generated. And the name of the piece is Theater de Opera Espacial.
Okay.
And this piece of art that I show you is when everyone kind of started picking their interest, or it was starting to run in the news.
How it brought attention.
It brought attention to all of this, more so that there was already software out there that was able to replicate the traces and the composition. Because it's not only, when you look at that picture, it's not only the fact that it was able to imitate like the folding of the clothes or the lighting of the room. It also has the composition as for where the things are positioned on the picture, and how your eyes kind of trace around the picture, and they start picking up things as our brains work. And it's just astounding what is able to be done with it. But at the same time,
it's amazing. It's also, I don't want to necessarily say wrong, but now it was wrong for that person to enter this into a contest that's supposed to be for artists, in my opinion, because he or she didn't actually create the art. Computer created it for him or her. So that I disagree with.
Yeah, so that's where the community is divided. Obviously, there's people. From me, testing the water, is more people against it, more so than people in favor of it. When people go on the fence about being on favor of it, people describe, well, it's technically a tool, and someone had to do a set of keywords, queries, and hundreds of results, filter them out, and fine-tune them until they got the result that they got, because it's not, at least at the point of this recording again, it's not as simple as you, for example, writing the style that you want the picture, what you want on the picture. You gotta keep adding and removing like queries from the data set, so it actually gets what you want at the end. Though, even if I'm saying that, you also gotta recognize that the speed in which it can be done is phenomenal. Like, you get an artist that has a specific style, and for them doing a work, well, it might take them an hour or two. Maybe the software can do it in less. Maybe not perfect, maybe not with all the characteristics, but it's pretty close. And this is where people are saying, well, you're gonna eventually have people go out of works, because all of the jobs that, for example, do concept art for movies, video games, or the such are gonna be replaced, because they don't pay an artist now. They now pay for a software that does that for an individual, and this kind of removing that out of the place. It's one of those things that as time goes by, it's inevitable that it's gonna go away. It's already here. It's more so how people tackle it and embrace it.
It's definitely because you can kind of see it on both sides of the equation there, as far as I mean, you don't want to see people losing their jobs. Obviously, and I'm not gonna, and I'm not saying that you are, or that this conversation is going into that realm, but I'm purposely not talking about fine art, because I think that's a whole scam in and of itself. It sounds more like we're talking about art that, the actual workman type artists that are working for companies designing, like you said, concept art for either a game or a movie, or maybe designing book album covers, things of that nature. I want to totally get not this fine art gallery bullshit where it's pretty much a scam.
And you just hit on something, because there's a very famous piece of art, or whatever you want to call it, expose of a banana stick on a wall with a duct tape. I don't know if you've seen that.
I made it.
Oh, you were the one, dude.
Yeah.
You're running cash, man.
I was drunk. I was drunk, and I had to tape a banana to a wall. So, no, I mean it's absurd, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, one thing is appreciation or the value that is attached to a picture, but think of it that way. For example, a picture that is hand-drawn for you, or a painting, it's an expression of someone putting their skill and thoughts on a canvas using the tools that they got available. But in a way, when you think about it, and that's where people get, I guess, infuriated in the conversation. Sure. The software is putting the thoughts, hence the keywords, that they want to represent on the final work using the tools that they got available. And not to get more into that, but also, did you know that photograph at some point was shown upon as a replacement for pictures, because if you like portraits? Because if you remember from all the classes, most likely it's been a while, but all the representation of very famous monarchs or people of an era were portrayed through drawing and painting. Once close to the 1800s, when the camera was a thing, all the artists that were on the era were saying, well, art is gonna go dead, because the photography they deemed that photography cannot be art because it came from a machine, right? But then it came to the point that it was more and so accepted. It wasn't well into the life cycle of the camera after its conception that actually people started accepting photography as a medium for art. And the same to some extent can be said as well for digital art, because you know that people now do on like digital tablets with a digital pen. and sort of do the traces and all that instead of a pen and paper or on a canvas. They do it
Right.
on a digital pad, so they can do it on the computer and sort of have more nuances to it. You gotta learn the software, you gotta learn the tool as well. There's some skill involved with it still, and
Sure.
it might have lasted maybe a year or two until people also accepted digital art as a form of art. But there's a very big difference that I want to make, obviously, on the conversation, because there's some sort of, I guess, skill involved in that, like an
Well,
expression coming from the creative imagination of someone.
the person is still actually drawing,
Yeah, there's quote unquote some
right?
work on
There's
it. Yeah,
yeah,
it's not the same as you putting a set of words on an algorithm that is gonna produce the output for you.
right. Basically, so with the AI art, I could basically recreate these pictures, these that you just sent to me. Basically, whether I could actually physically draw them or not, and to me, that takes some of the creatism and the talent away from people who are able to do that.
I don't think that art is gonna die per se, like the
No,
artist, because quite honestly, art has something that the AI cannot reproduce, and it's the matter of fact that for a lot of people, it's a sort of therapy. Not only their jobs, but they also use it as an form of expression for themselves, and it might be more valued to actually find someone that is able to produce a piece of work of artistic skill and talent and emotion put into the piece than someone that created with the AI. And not that someone cannot be as emotional, educated, or eventually skilled using the software. Say that someone takes an hour to produce the piece, maybe it's gonna get someone that can do it in 30 minutes, all the thing about optimization. But it's not gonna die. It's gonna transform to some extent.
probably, yeah, you're probably right. It says so. Now, do you since you've done a little bit more research on this kind of stuff than I have, I wanted to ask you, especially specifically, not maybe not specifically to these that you sent me, but are there? Do you know of any tells, or are there ways that you can? I don't want to necessarily say easily, see or pick out which one is AI generated. Or
So that's when I was kind of making the correlation, because some of the keywords that the people that do the data scraping and data collection have been using directly the art of specific artists, and by they tying the artist to the style, a lot of people, for example, say Pablo Picasso, a Will Card on a windy hill. And those are, for example, the query. And if you change the artist to someone else,
mhm.
it's going to give you the same windy hill with a card, but in a different style.
Well, sure,
So it becomes harder and harder as the software starts associating a style of traces and patterns with an artist. As of right now, because the software, I'm talking a thing of months. It might be the next month. It might not be the case, but as of now, hands is usually the hardest thing for AI to replicate for whatever reason. I
mhm,
guess the number of fingers or how the hands are positioned. Funny enough, a lot of people, I can speak for myself. One of the things that gave me the most work to improve when I was drawing was actually hand and feet, because
mm,
it was rather hard. The dimensions, proportions, and correlation with the rest of the body. Either you had hands that were too small or too big, or you only draw them in one position, like facing face up, or just did a clenched fist, and you didn't
right.
you didn't have to go into too many details on the foldings or on the wrinkles and everything that a hands encompasses. The software, if you find any, the hands might look a little funny. You can also see some overlapping patterns as far as the folding of the clothing in some areas. If you look very closely, there could be things that the software might not recognize very well. For example, if they take a piece of art that has the signature of someone, it
Hmm.
might it's gonna try to make the signature like I mentioned earlier out of the noise and recreate it, but it might become as a splatter instead of
Right.
the original signature because it's trying to associate what that is in within the composition or the style or all the other keywords that it's trying to associate with that. Signature is things that don't kind of translate too well as well. So there are some tells as far as the software that is being used, but it's getting harder and harder.
And do you think people will now try to make their art differently, or put in different things that might make it more difficult for an AI, as to maybe hope that they avoid, you know, people using their art as a back, you know, a base for AI generated art? You know, you mentioned like
Yeah, oh yeah,
signatures and stuff. Yeah,
oh yeah. People are already trying to make strides in that regard. For example, either the watermarks that quote unquote can be removed. Um, Obviously, also tagging their art like, hey, I don't want my art to be AI use it for AI software. And it's funny that you mentioned that because that's the crux of the deal. Like, if it was that it was under the how do you say they went to the artist and they asked them, hey, can we use your art for it? If no, they're using the art regardless if copyrighted or not.
regardless. Right.
And that's where a class action lawsuit, as we're talking now, have been mounted by three artists. Their names being Kelly McCree, McKiernan, Carla Ortiz, and Sarah Anderson, against Stable AI and Midjourney. There are some of the well, one is the software, the other is the company. As far as one being Stable Diffusion, the software, the other being DALI, that belongs to someone else, and
Right.
basically they're on the terms of infringing upon copyright because they are training the software with their art and the art of other thousands or most likely million of other artists, and the amount of data that is estimated to have been collected and scraped is worth within the 200 terabytes worth of works. And when you think about it, what they're trying to stipulate is that hey, the people that are defending it, hey, uh, everyone uses everyone's work as reference. Like you see a picture, you use it as a reference to drawing a hand, drawing a face, and so on and so forth. And they're making the same argument that they're training the software, so it also learns as a human will learn to draw. Though the counter argument to that is the matter of fact that they're not doing this for free. Some of them they're actually putting like paywalls or subscription behind that software to be used, and they're not the only ones. Microsoft, GitHub, and OpenAI, basically under the same umbrella, they also were on a class action lawsuit for the GitHub Copilot software, and it's like, oh well, yeah. There was no legal precedent to that. Now all the legal precedents are gonna be built upon this very same fact.
Yeah, it's definitely because it does it teeters on that line of plagiarism, right? Is it technically plagiarism if they're not copying it, you know, exact verbatim, but they're just using it as a reference that, you know, like you mentioned before, that a human being might actually do as well. But you know, it to me it seems to be that's it's a little bit more. It's more towards plagiarism than, in my opinion, anyways, than it would be for someone in taking maybe tips or you know, referencing something that they've seen in other artists and working maybe to develop their own style as well. But you know, whereas the AI, the computer itself, is probably taking it more of an exact as much as possible to try to replicate. They're trying to replicate that style and not maybe just taking tips. Now, obviously, you said if they're utilizing multiple artists and, you know, many other paintings and it's taking different aspects of each, I guess, but it's still the computer can do a whole hell of a lot more in the amount of time than a human can. So
Yeah.
it's definitely, yeah, but it's, I don't have a good answer for it. For me, I'll say this: if I was a artist, I wouldn't want my work to be able to be replicated through an AI like that. That would be because if somebody now presented a painting, and just like the one that you said that entered a contest, it's like, wait, but you didn't actually make that painting. A computer made that painting. You don't have the same capability, the same talents that I do in order to be able to do that. Okay, sure, your keywords and all that other time that you spent sitting in front of the computer, yeah, I guess you can say that there's something to be said for that, but it comes down to the ultimate skill that a person has or doesn't have, and the computer is still doing it for them for the most part. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting conversation, that's for sure.
And as you just said, it's hard to answer right now because I guess I'm gonna play devil's advocate. It's one of those things. If you would have the art generated by the computer enter a competition, and people say, "Well, let's make an own category for that piece of art," like any piece of art that is produced by a computer is its own category. Well, out of itself, is it because it's good enough that it's on par with what people can do, or even better?
Uh, no, I would say because it's not. If they wanted to do a category that's restricted to just AI art, fine, but I wouldn't necessarily put the AI art in the same category as a human drawn
But you
or
wouldn't
human
know.
art. Well, yeah, no, and you're right, but that's part of the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because that is still taking away from somebody's talent, their skill set, that they're basically is being, I don't want to say mocked, but it's like, wait a second, I spent the time to develop my skills and hone my creativity to be able to produce something like this, and I still firmly believe that there's certain things that people just are genuinely born with, that capability that other people aren't. Like, I would never be able to draw something like this on my own, that's for sure. And other people can. And to me, it's amazing, and I think that takes away from it, having a computer do it for you.
No, I mean, again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Obviously, I'm more so on the side of me myself drawing, having learned to draw some time ago, might not do it as often now, but I do think that in the way that they did it might have not been the most ethical, if you will call it that. It's more so that if, like, every piece of art or every piece of technology or improvement that has been achieved through time, like machines unfortunately replacing people because they can do something better faster,
Which we've seen in all industries over time.
within in a other lieu of other industries. If I guess whether happens right now after these cases that are being prosecuted, it could end up being firing backwards, that the software is not using the original piece of art as much as taking it as references and transforming the art enough, as you've seen on those pictures. Most likely you were to see the picture of the second picture that I sent you, that is a child with a bunch of flowers around her. Funny enough, that picture was recreated, I believe it was Mid-Journey, from the lyrics of Sweet Child of Mine. And that's what came out of you putting the lyrics of the song on the software. Does that belong to an artist in particular? Maybe the stylist, but all the other pieces, it's not necessarily like it goes and takes the apple from someone and takes the tree from someone else and takes the ground from some other artist. It's quite literally the software learning to distinguish, like, what it is a tree. The tree usually have branches, has a trunk, has leaves, has roots, like all the things all the characteristics that would go with the keyword tree, it's learning through the algorithms to put it on a set. Okay, I'm gonna create all this subset of trees that I collected so far. When someone asks for a tree, maybe they specify a sequoia tree or a pine tree or a banana tree or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
You might need to specify what kind of tree you want, but when you say tree, it might produce an output from the most frequent or the closest definition that it has to a tree. That's where, if the case doesn't go well, it may end up being that all of these companies might still go ahead and still keep using the art of artists. But I don't know. This is the part that I don't understand it well enough. This has been kind of on my purview for the past few weeks. That, you know, when you go and photocopy something on a printer, and you just photocopy that and photocopy that and photocopy that a bunch of times, it comes to the time that the 10th or 20th iteration of that is not as clear as the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder what would happen. I'm being super hypothetical here. Obviously, again, no full understanding or grasp of the software itself, but say that they already scrape all the internet for all the existing pictures or works of art that exist to this point or might be created in the future or immediate future. Say that artists, as an eventuality of everything that's happening, start running out of jobs, or people are dissuaded from it. That I say you shouldn't be dissuaded from doing what you love. It gets to the point that there's no longer like a point of reference for it to keep improving upon. It becomes stagnant. And then it comes to the point that people start improving again. And it's going to be that constant race between people trying to improve, evolve upon what is already established and what the machine can learn. Because the machine is learning from you as you have your own style, your own way to doing things. But the machine is getting so good that it's going to get to a point that it's going to do what you do in less time. But if there's no longer someone feeding into it, either it already has a very robust set of databases that is able to extrapolate maybe a set of keywords and maybe able to recreate something out of no longer needing to feed from someone else's preferences. Who knows? But it's just a hypothetical. What would happen?
Is that when the computers take over? Is that about that same time frame?
If they haven't already. But man, I wanted to just bring the conversation to the table because it's something that has become more and more polemic. There are people that are very rooted in within their set of fields of I belong to this group or I belong to the other. I'm gonna be honest. I'm more leaning towards the artists because it's hard and I guess very dehumanizing to some extent. That because obviously we got better tools, people are end up losing their jobs. That's not something that anyone humanly want to do, but I guess in the sake for improvement or progress and innovation, there are people definitely that will be pro having the AI art on the software as being okay with it. And
yeah,
it's not going away. It's just how we, I guess, either go into an agreement or look for a way that actually both can intertwine and work, because it's one of those things, man. If there comes a software that is able to do your Active Directory and all of your groups and all of your group policies automatically, and say someone that doesn't even comprehend anything in IT and goes and does it, would you have a working doing Active Directory work kind of a deal, you know? How do you go into that? Either you learn the software that does that, or there's gonna be some happy medium in some extent, or you go without, you go and don't have a job no longer.
Well, and you're already seeing quite a bit of that in our industry, in the IT industry, with automation and like infrastructure as a code and things of that nature. So you're already kind of seeing some of that coming into play, where you can actually have like an orchestrator being able to
We, we,
build VMs. Yeah,
we already had a software. Obviously, I didn't want to say by name, but I know there's software already that does that.
yeah,
It's more so that maybe at the point of its maturity right now, it only can go from the data that you input. So if you put garbage in, garbage is gonna come out. So if you get an account for someone that it
correct.
wasn't entered properly, and whoa, that was part of our work, having to fix those accounts because someone entered the name of someone wrong or so and such, garbage is gonna come out. So if you feed all the software with garbage, it might not produce something that is really aesthetically appealing or is within the
Yeah.
purview of everyone.
I can definitely see the AI art coming to more fruition for companies that are, and then right away it comes to mind like video game developers, because they want to be able to produce a lot of the art and concept art quickly for their games, because obviously they want them to come out quicker. So instead of having somebody literally sit there and draw all the different concept art for their storyboards and locations and whatnot, they can feed the computer and have it pump out art. So I can definitely see benefits there. But again, like you said, it's potentially taking away people's jobs, which is something you don't want to see either. So yeah, it's tough conversation.
Yeah, so putting it out there and sort of to close it off and to hear what you think, and I guess I'll give you my opinion as well. Pablo Picasso once said, "A good artist copy, a great artist steals."
Well, I mean, there's definitely different viewpoints when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, that's, and it's been ongoing for since the dawn of time. I still think that this is still slightly different from that aspect, only because even if you're quote unquote stealing from another artist, you still have to have that that talent to be able to put it down on paper. Whereas with the AI, it's kind of doing it for you. To me, it's more the algorithms and the code behind the scenes is way more impressive to me than somebody sitting there putting in keywords.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. For me, both of us, I guess, having that, I guess, background in technology and their understanding of all the coding and processes that are behind it, it's really amazing and astounding what they have been able to achieve through all that coding that has been put out there. I from the side of art, even if you're able to imitate someone very, very good or very, very closely or almost identical, art out of itself is an expression of the human being, of the human mind, the human as a whole, that if you try to, it gets to the point that you try to remove that from the equation, the human aspect of it. I mean, it's still a human entering the keywords to produce a result. I don't want to say that it's a sort of a weak AI. Obviously, that will go into a whole other conversation, weak AI, through AI, machine learning, and all that. But it's more so that something or someone has to still do the query, because out of the software is not going to do anything on its own. It needs some sort of input for get an output. But art, like if you dehumanize art, for me, it's no longer going to be art. I guess what I'm trying to say is, to some extent, there's still some intention or some creative notion coming from the person that is doing the query. Though the tools that they're using are different, I still think that it's much more valuable what a person is able to do through their years of study, learning, and adding that spice that is their own style or their own being put into the work of art. So I don't think that it's going to completely replace in the sense of the value that we as an individuals add to the art. Obviously, from the commercial standpoint, the business aspect, I guess that's where we might see the hurt.
I agree 100%.
So I guess that's all that I wanted to bring into the conversation. And You agree, disagree? Let us know in any comments. We got a YouTube channel, we got Facebook, Twitter, we got a Reddit as well. Now you're not ready for this. Let us know. What do you think? Where do you stand?
Yeah, if you have some some examples, some other impressions, then please let us know. We'll be more happy to talk about it.
Sure is. Well, we'll catch you the next time. This time around, it was your host Alan and my friend Kevin here.
Everybody, you have yourself a good evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
Good evening, afternoon, or night, wherever you listen to this. Take care, everyone.
Exactly. Take care now.